In this video, we're going to take a look at 10 disadvantages of Android for 2018. That video is coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to 10 disadvantages of Android for 2018. Now, first of all, I do not hate on Android. I do not dislike Android, but I like to take a look at phones from all different aspects. I do have reasons why Android is better than Apple, reasons why Android phones are better than Apple phones. I got videos like that as well, but we want to take a look at disadvantages here, and there will be an iOS version of 10 disadvantages of iOS coming directly after this video, so you might want to be subscribed to see that as well. But let's begin with number 1 on this list. So the first disadvantage with the Android ecosystem and platform is going to be that this thing has a lot of processes that run in the background that cause battery drain on the Android device. So while iOS devices have been in the news lately for being very inefficient when it comes to their battery problems, that's mostly an iOS 11 issue. I found a little bit in iOS 10 as well. That's going to be fixed soon. However, Android doesn't get away with being like the best battery life phones either, because a lot of them do drain quickly based on some processes going on in the background. So what that means is when you first get an Android device, this thing will be very good on battery life. Once you get stuff loaded up, things start caching up in the background. You start getting a buildup of applications and data on the phone. You start to notice, why is my battery life not performing like it once did? Now, this is not true for all phones. Like the S8 Plus, for example, has done a good job at retaining its battery life. But for the most part on Android, I've seen that happen quite a bit. So that's number 1. Lots of processes go ahead and drain battery in the background for Android. So the next one resides in the Play Store. And number 2 is the applications simply are just not as safe as the applications on the iOS platform, because there's a much stricter, process to get your iOS applications on the iPhone. But here on Android, it's just anyone can really just make an app, throw a virus on it, throw something on there, and have something in there that can really just get your phone. Now, Google has been working the best they can to eliminate these malicious apps, and granted, it is much better than it was 5 years ago, but you're not totally out of the woodworks yet here on Android. The Google Play Store and the very nature of the Android OS is still very open source. So simply, the Play Store applications are simply not as safe as what you can get on competing platforms such as iOS. So number 3 on my list is Android still requires you to use the Gmail application to have an Android device. Yes, you can skip it, but you kind of need it to do anything you really want to do on a device, such as use the Play Store, use applications. If you don't use Gmail, you're basically using a basic phone on the Android device. So definitely requiring you to use Gmail is still a little bit annoying for Android's device. To really get the really full experience out of Android, it requires Gmail for a full deep Google integration on the platform. So, going on iOS, you have the choice whether you want to use Gmail, Google services or not. But over here on Android, to really get the benefits and the best experience you can get, you have to have a Gmail. And I still know some people don't even have a Gmail, to be honest with you. Number 4, I couldn't take it off the list. One of the disadvantages, huge one, of Android, and why I have a couple different types of softwares here on the table, is software fragmentation on Android devices. It seems like it will never end. Most companies heavily modify the Android user experience, making for a lot of different Android devices feeling like they're not as cohesive, and they just depend on what the manufacturer is offering, such as TouchWiz and Samsung. So on Samsung devices, you're going to get the Samsung experience. Come over here, switch over. Maybe you want a Huawei phone, an Honor phone. You're coming over here to EMUI, a totally different experience. Come over to OnePlus series of device. As you see over here, you're getting Oxygen OS. So everything just feels not cohesive. Everything feels different when you come from one Android phone to the next. Now, at its core, if you really understand how the Android platform works, it's not going to be a problem. So seasoned users won't have a problem switching from one to the other, because they know it's basically the same Play Store, just icons are a little different. But every time I go to a different Android, it's like I got to relearn the entire software, where things are, because EMUI, things aren't in the same place as they are on Samsung's device. So things are all over the place and just very different. So with that being said, that's still a disadvantage to me, software fragmentation. This also makes for slower updates on certain platforms. in addition to that, this makes privacy concerns, as well as some of the Chinese phones over here in the States have not been trusted by our government for some reason. I'm not really going to talk too much about that, but I'm just saying, some Android phones can't be trusted more than others, such as Samsung has Samsung Knox. So a lot of people trust Samsung because they have a much more, secure platform going on behind the scenes than something like a OnePlus series. And coming in at number 5 is the cache buildup on Android causes severe lag in the background. Now, if you have an S8 Plus or an S8 and you've noticed any lag, I haven't noticed too much, but from time to time I do. All I have to do is go into the applications, locate some of the apps that are causing a huge amount of cache buildup, delete the cache, and it starts running snappy again. Now, I don't want to do that though, so it's just something extra you got to keep doing on the device, but that's what you pay for when you get all that customization. You get more app cache buildup here on this platform. So if you want more customization, you're still going to have to deal with the fact that the cache in the background can cause severe lag to an Android device. Now, you're getting much better here with devices like the OnePlus 5T with its more stock-like feel, 6 gigs of RAM, but on phones like the Samsung devices, that's still causing a hiccup, as well as things like the Honor devices. I've been finding a little bit of lag in comparison to more of the stock builds, but still, it's nice to see that you get all this customization, but a disadvantage is cache buildup in the background at number 5. So at number 6 is going to be you cannot install all built-in apps. So a lot of people give Apple crap for not being able to move your apps wherever you want, but on Android, you can't delete every app. So some on TouchWiz you can, such as the calendar. I think you can uninstall. So you can't uninstall the calendar here on a Samsung device. So on Samsung, for example, can't uninstall the calendar. I can uninstall the calendar on an Apple device. You can't uninstall contacts, for example, here on Samsung. What if I want to use a third-party application? I don't want to use Samsung's contacts. I'm just saying, you can't uninstall, most of the factory apps. Now, you can't uninstall all of them on iOS, but they're getting to a point where you can install most of the ones you want to uninstall. You still can't do that here on Android. So coming in at number 7 is very high RAM usage on the Android devices. So let's come over here to the Samsung device and go into settings here, guys, and check this out. So when I go into device, and let me see where it's at, device maintenance, let's go to memory and let's see something. So I just turned this thing on. It's checking, give it a second. 2.3 gigs out of 4 gigs. So it's using almost half the RAM, and it's doing literally nothing right now. It's just sitting in idle mode. I'm not doing anything with the phone. So stuff like that is just really annoying, and it's really one of the reasons why you need 6 to 8 gigs of RAM like OnePlus is doing to make the phone always feel snappy. And even then, sometimes it doesn't feel always super snappy. So very high RAM usage here on the Android platform still, and that's a disadvantage. That should change within a year. I think we're going to see 6 standard gigs of RAM, and then we're going to go up to 8, maybe 10 in the future, maybe 12, maybe one day 16, but right now they're taking up too much RAM usage. Coming in at number 8 is going to be gaming performance is not quite as good on Android in general as it is on iOS, its main competing platform. So what I mean by that is games don't load as fast, and they tend to lag a little bit more than the iOS platform. Now, games can crash out on iOS as well, but I just find that there's overheating issues more on the Android side of things, and the games, you're more likely to experience a lag just period on Android device. Now, the more powerful phones, like some of these you see on the table right here, will be able to handle most games with ease, but there's still times when the phone feels too hot or it lags out. So if you're looking for a purely gaming standpoint phone, I do think that going with an Android device might not be your best option. I have mentioned this in the past that an iPhone is going to be the way to go for some gaming stuff. And at number 10 is updates happen in the background that cause some slowdown. So what I'm talking about is Play Store updates. This also happens on iOS App Store updates, but you have to go in, turn it off. But not just those, but things like TouchWiz will just be updating security softwares on its own without my permission. Now, some phones you can change the permissions with that stuff, but still, a lot of times I'll put my Android phone away, I'll come back to it in 2 days, I'll turn it on, and boom, all this stuff is just updating, making it really slow. Whereas on iOS, I turn it on, and maybe an app here or there will update. It'll give me a suggestion if I want to update my software, but this stuff will just start updating, and you're like, all these things will start coming in, all these notifications, just causing severe lag on the phone. And you'll think maybe it's the phone, when really no, it's just the phone doing a bunch of updating in the background. So that's number 10. Updates happen frequently in the background that can cause some glitching and lag on Android devices in 2018. So we have arrived at the conclusion of this video. That is 10 disadvantages of Android. We will be covering 10 disadvantages of iOS, so don't think iOS is off the hook right now and you think that, oh, Nick turned on Android. Yes, he's an Apple fan. No. Here comes iOS disadvantages after this one. I just want to tackle Android from its disadvantage standpoint as well as iOS because we're always talking about what's good about them. Let's be honest and talk about what's bad about them as well. We have to have an equilibrium here. We have to have a balance between both platforms. So, you as the viewer, as the consumer, as the person purchasing this, you know what you're getting yourself into. But is Android a slow platform? No, not always. Sometimes it can be a little bit glitchy, twitchy here and there, but overall, both the experiences are fantastic. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section of this video. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well. I'll catch you in the next episode, and peace.